Hey, what's up? It's Coach PR on for Vlad TV. Shout out to Vlad and the crew. I'm here with special guest today, Maurice the Beast Clarett. How you doing, bro?
Doing well, doing well.
Doing well. Is it
Yes.
still the Beast is still there, or we
No, the beast.
just take the Beast out?
Take the beast out.
Okay, because you were the Beast before Beast Mode, bro, and I thought that was like, dang, he was the original Beast.
Yeah, I mean, I guess in the context of football, when I was 18, 19, and just the way I ran, it was real aggressive with people, and having a lot of head-on collisions, and succeeding in most of them. People give you the handle, but as I've evolved in life, and I really understood the power in words. I found out that just calling myself a beast sort of cornered myself or
Right,
imposed a certain mentality over myself.
right. So this will take us back growing up in Youngstown, Ohio. That's where you're from,
Yes,
Youngstown.
yes.
Take us back there. Growing up in how was it growing up in Youngstown?
Youngstown, like any other, I want to say metropolitan, but any other inner city, young black, and I grew up. I'm 36 now. I grew up in the '90s era, where you have an inclusion of gang culture, an inclusion of murder, inclusion of robbery, domestic violence, and things and so forth. And really, if I could talk about my younger years, I think that's where I started to form my identity on how I wanted to be viewed towards my peers. So obviously, when you grow up in the madness, I call it, you tend to want to act like you're tougher than what you really are. So when I'm younger, I'm trying to hang around my older brothers, and in the neighborhood, I'm trying to act tougher than what I am. As a result from it, I had what I like to call three major encounters. The first encounter, I was about 11 or 12 years old. I had stolen the car and ended up getting caught. Went to juvenile for a few days and stayed and got back out. And in one regard, I thought it was cool because, folks around the way like, yo, you got locked up. They want to know about the intake process, and it's looked at and viewed as being cool on
Once you
some
get
level.
locked up,
Yeah,
right?
getting locked up. It's like your rites of passage towards your juvenile fame, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so my mom's had basically seen the same thing happen with both my older brothers. They both went to juvenile systems. Then, a few after that, I ended up getting locked up again as for getting into a fight at a skating ring. Got into a fight. They lock all the kids up who were fighting. Then next thing you know, I go down and the judge is like, yo, if you come back down here, I'm gonna send you up to the state detention center.
Mm.
So I stayed out of trouble for a couple years, played football, ran track, and did other constructive stuff. And then my last time, getting in trouble, I ended up breaking into a gentleman's house. And in the process of breaking in the house, the gentleman had woke up, come down the hallway, caught me and another guy inside the house. And to make a long story short, I ended up basically getting arrested and going down to the police station or to the juvenile detention center. And when I was down there, in the middle of the night, there was a gentleman by the name of Mr. Roland Smith who had come over to me and was like, I've seen you play football and basketball and sports, and I also know your mother and father. Let me see if I can kind of interfere, well, not interfere, sound like redirect you, you know what I'm saying, and go to the
Right.
judge and ask you to put you on house arrest. And so that summer they put me on a house arrest, and this is how I got into football. They placed me on house arrest, and I would go condition, lift weights, and be mentored by him throughout the summer. And when I would start to go to practice, based on the high school I was going to, I would be dominating the guys at practice. And so I would be getting out the house, but I would be lifting weights and I would compete at practice. And I started to realize like I was playing from a different space, more from this traumatic, I've been through a lot, I got to get out my neighborhood sort of mentality.
Because you grew up with there's a lot of murderers and drug dealers going in your direct neighborhood. So,
Yes, yes.
so transforming that energy helped you out, like,
Yeah, I
or
think
did
I think a lot of kids they just you go through so much trauma you don't know what to do with the emotion. You know what I'm saying? And when you have when you see the murders, when you and most people don't want to admit it, but when you live in an environment where you're scared, you know what I'm saying? And you're like, wow, the older guys in my neighborhood killing folks, or the older guys in my neighborhood are doing whatever. You take on a mentality like, yo, either I'm going to um, be involved in it because I've become it, or you taking like this defensive mechanism. You know what I'm
right,
saying? Where you take on like this false attitude. And I think more of my stuff was the false attitude, just because just all the madness is going on. When you start to and just like no difference than what you see in Chicago. There's a
mm,
bunch of murders in Chicago, so I'm pretty sure there's a lot of kids who have to take on some sort of mentality that they probably don't normally want to take on. And so when I hit the football field, this was the first place that I can place this emotion in. And so, or if I hit the basketball court, I get to in my mind create an enemy or create some sort of opposition with the opponent.
Right.
And there's also a level where if you see how I play, it matched how I felt. So when I would play people, I would say, man, you didn't come from where I come from, so you can't beat me.
So you were more hungrier and
Yeah,
felt like
100%.
right?
100.
But so when you how old were you? How old were you when your house got shot up? You were
Yeah, we were 8th grade. So how old are you in 8th grade? Probably 13, 14 years old. Ended up getting into it with some guys in the neighborhood. My brother did, 2, 3 in the morning. Dudes come through and, they do what they do.
Right.
They shut the house up. And so, fortunately, my mother had mentioned in the documentary that, but, I was laying on the floor and, I had been used to hearing shots, but, I'm hearing these shots and at the time you hear them break through the drywall, you hear them break through the porch.
Wow.
And, when you're in the midst of that, and I was sitting in front of the TV console, and that basically hit the, what is it called? Hit the TV console. How I lift my head up, we probably ain't sitting there having this interview.
Right.
But it was like, so that stuff is real. These are real moments in your life.
And it was like the front of the house and the back of the house. So they wanted to finish somebody off there, like.
Yeah, so I don't know how they got there either. Obviously I was in the house. So in one way or another, either they came through the backyards or they came through the front of the house and they basically start shooting.
So they shot the front and the back. It was at the same time, or they just went from the front to the back?
No, they shot. It was happening at the same time because I'm on the floor. You can hear the bullets coming through the house on the front end, and then you can hear where our kitchen was at. They were coming on the back end, and I remember hearing my mother like, "Yo, get down." My mother screamed real loud from the house.
That had to be frightening for your mom and for you being that
for everybody.
Right?
It's frightening for everybody. You get bullets flying. The old saying, bullets ain't got no names, and you in the midst of it, and you see that your house, for lack of better words, is being sandwiched with bullets. That basically, it puts you in a very uncomfortable situation. And for me, I was terrified.
Right. And was this the same time where the 8 people, I think it was like 8 people that got killed
on
your block?
Yeah, so
this around the same time?
Around the same time. This is, I want to say probably from like 91 to like 90, I would say at least 98, our neighborhood was just out of control. And so, either people getting killed on the block, killed up the block, you got home invasions on the neighborhood, pistol whippings, all type of madness, you know what I mean? And but if you from or came up in the 90s, this was normal behavior.
Right.
You're getting influenced by music and TV and all of the cultural elements that influence all of us. And so this was happening right in front of me.
And then after that made you like, I'm gonna play sports. You played sports young. You went to that's when you bumped into the
correction officer.
Correctional, right?
Okay.
Mr.
Smith.
And then you started playing ball, high school ball.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Then I started playing high school ball. I go to a school called Untitled Chapter. And as I'm competing against these guys, I'm just starting to realize that I'm playing from a different space. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And there was never any admiration or not admiration. There was never any aspirations to want to go to the NFL because I never thought or seen somebody go. Right.
Right.
And so
especially from Youngstown.
Especially from Youngstown. You never, So now a kid can see a path to the NFL, but we're talking about 98. You don't see no path to the NFL or even think it's possible. And so the next thing you know, I go out here and I'm starting to play ball. And after the first few games, I realized I was like, yo, I can go to college. Like my whole thing was just go to college. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
This like the era of like higher learning and blue chip and the program and all those little college documentaries.
Right.
You know what I'm talking about? Are films that were like made college feel like the NFL.
Right.
And so after I played there for a few games and broke my ankle, I was like, man, if I take football serious, I can do something. And so, sophomore year, junior year go on. And then eventually my senior year, I went out there and just really started to impose my will on the game.
This when you transferred to, this is at Warren G though?
Yeah, Warren G. Harding. I transferred mid-year, my freshman year, and went over here to compete with guys who were a lot better. And when I started to compete with those guys, another Division I level guys, I started to realize that my mentality just wasn't taking me to the next level with the team I was on, but I had a different mentality towards the entire country. And so just for context, I was going to different camps. I went to the Notre Dame camp. I went to Indiana camp. And you start to see guys from around the world, or from around the country at least. And so I think that you would read about a guy on a paper, and then when you go see him and compete against him, you'd be like, yo, this dude isn't as good as I thought he was on paper.
Right.
And then it came a time my senior year, And I don't know if this comes from Youngstown or if this just comes from sheer bred competition. I said, man, I'm better than all these guys. And, that's why I'm so big into power and words. And so as a high schooler, I would write the greatest of all time on my cleats, right? And so I would say, go to the weight room like you're the greatest of all time. Go to the practice field like you're the greatest of all time. But even in high school as a kid, and I didn't realize I was doing something significant, I was still approaching stuff like that. And so when I was thinking about this, I was like, man, if I'm going to be the greatest, I have to be competing with guys in college. So I would, in high school, be competing against the guys in college, like how many yards does such and such have, or how many yards does such and such have, because I had been preparing myself to go to the next level.
And then you were ranked like the top 100 players. So
Yes.
you felt that you were better than those players that were like top 10?
Yeah, just at that moment in time, I felt like with my position, I don't think that there was another person who was better in the country at that time. And it came from just what I was able to bring to the game. I think that when you measure players, my biggest thing is how much impact does a person have on the game. You could be a good player and you can be popular, you can run yards and you could be a part of the whole, but are you a player who makes the entire defense shift what they have going on? If you line up as a running back at receiver, do you dictate what the defense has to do? And so just from an impact standpoint through special teams, punt return, kick return, and all of the other positions I play, I was an impact player. And I was driven, but I've also been brought up against like with great coaching. I had our high school coach who was Tom McDaniels. His son is Josh McDaniels for the Patriots, his offensive coordinator.
Oh, get out of here, man.
Yeah, so I was brought up with great coaching. My running back coach, Matt Richardson, he had played the game and played for Coach Trussell. And so I had more coaching than what probably guys have. Like coaching is everything.
At that age that you did.
They teach you how to approach the game. They teach you how to practice. They teach you the seriousness of it. They teach you the dynamic and breaking down the nuances of the game and operations and how you manage the game and why our audible is being called. And so as an 18-year-old kid, I was getting that in comparison to another kid's coach who would have probably just said, hey, we're just going out here just to beat this team.
Just to beat them and everything.
Yeah,
so they gave you the extra IQ.
Yes, sir.